Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. I hope I got that right because it just went live just as that happened. Never know with these things. Nicola has been and gone. His baby's awake. Oh, look out! Here he comes. Fashionably late as ever.
Fashionably late.
Fashionably late. Yeah.
Like a movie star.
Like a movie star in a lot of ways, but
a
in a
movie
lot
star,
of ways,
that's me.
nothing like a movie star.
On cue as usual.
On cue, yeah. Queuing for what? What are you queuing for?
Okay.
Oh, look, there we go. It's hat and all. Well, anyway, let's go back to the beginning, shall we? Good day, everybody. There's Bruce, obviously, now, and we've got Matthew Worley with us. And Matthew Worley is from the Passerine Aircraft Corporation, and you might have seen a video that I put up sometime this week. He's got an aeroplane that jumps into the air, and somebody said like a cricket, which I thought was an interesting comment, Matthew. And it's caused a lot of interest, a lot of buzz. So I don't know, how should we do this? Should we just let Bruce take it apart, or should we give you a chance? Tell us, how did you arrive? Tell the viewers that haven't seen that video, how did you arrive at a jumping aeroplane?
Yeah, so how we arrived at it was, how do we build a more efficient drone? How do we make a catapult launched drone that doesn't need a catapult, and so we can get our long range and high speed without needing to have ground infrastructure. So we started off looking at that and looked at birds which do exactly that mission, and saw when they take off, they jump using their legs. So we have mimicked that on our aircraft.
Bruce, Louis, do you want to take over here? Did you see that video?
Yeah, I saw the video. It's a cantilever launch system. It's quite a good idea. My only thoughts are: is it better to have the cantilever launch system as part of the aircraft or part of the ground station? Because if it's part of the aircraft, it's added weight. If it's part of the ground station, then you're not taking it for a ride when it doesn't necessarily have to go for a ride. So you're increasing your payload capability. And of course, I've seen the landing thing too, where it does a deep stall. But again, an aircraft suitably designed can deep stall onto regular ground without any damage anyway. So why did you want to take the undercarriage along for the ride when really it just basically is only used for the first 500 milliseconds of the flight?
Well, that's fairly simple. It's so that it can land at a remote location and take off again without you needing to provide a catapult on the other end. So it can do a two-way mission instead of the one-way missions we currently see with catapult-launched drones.
And that, dear viewer, has been, well, one of the comments I've seen the most on LinkedIn and other places is, let's see a video of it landing. Have we seen it land yet?
And how do you reload the landing gear? Obviously, there's a lot of energy involved in winding up that spring or whatever you've got. Where does that energy come from to reload it for the next launch?
So that comes from your onboard energy storage. I don't want to go into too much of the specifics on how that mechanism works, but it is done internally on the mechanics of the airframe.
Yeah, but
so there's extra weight in terms of a motor to wind it up and things. So there is extra. Again, the penalty, the payload penalty, is not insignificant.
It's not. I'd actually say it's not that significant. We're not looking at too much more weight compared to a retractable undercarriage on a normal fixed wing airframe.
So basically, we just get the advantages of a catapult on drone delivery system for remote location. Basically, it's that, right?
Yes, that's basically it. Yes.
Yeah, I believe sometimes some simple ideas correctly executed by engineers. I hope that there are some engineers on your team can come up with simple. I really like the KISS engineering principle. Keep it super simple. So sometimes it's better to have an auxiliary way of controlling. So I don't know if you're using any type of flight controller or something.
Yes, yeah, it has a complete flight controller on board. It's using a Pixhawk at the moment.
Yeah, so it will be quite easy to make it shoot via GPIO pin, the takeoff mechanism. Let's call it takeoff mechanism.
Yeah.
You call it, or is it as a? Don't you guys have come up with a marketing name?
At the moment, we're just referring to it as a launch mechanism.
Okay. How'd you jump, Bruce? At it for the moment. It's not an Ardu pilot. You know, come on.
It's not an Ardu pilot development.
Quick. Hang on. Let's get the domain.
But I've just got an email in from Mother Nature. Apparently, her patent lawyers are onto this. How dare you copy nature like that?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I thought the interesting thing you mentioned, and I'm going to have to say it, Pudu Jabba in the comments says, let's just pretend runways are obsolete and VTOLs are overrated. I tend to agree with you a little bit. Yeah, I do. And that's part of what this is sort of eliminating is the carrying 19 other motors along for the ride in order to get yourself airborne. Because, Bruce, if you think to it in that way, you know, a lot of people are setting up 4 motors for that 20 seconds of getting airborne off the ground. And that's a hell of a weight and drag penalty to take around. And what Matthew didn't, well, I don't think we mentioned on the videos, but the things will be fared in the production model, so that'll cut the drag a little bit on the way along, and it'll be turbined as well. I hate ducted fans; they're only good for converting electricity to noise, really. And
turbines aren't much better.
Sorry, mate.
In terms of fuel efficiency,
turbines. Well,
no, they're not particularly efficient. Not the small turbines, the model type turbines. There's no bypass; they're just a straight turbojet, so their fuel efficiency is notoriously low.
Matthew, just a question. You're planning to use your takeoff mechanism on your own frames, or do you plan to expand and have it available to other aircraft frames?
Yeah, so we're looking at our own frames. You do need a fairly unique airframe to be able to use the launch mechanism as it stands at the moment, but with future development, we could potentially have it as an add-on to existing airframes.
Yeah, that would be great to expand its reach.
Yeah,
as long as you get some royalties and all that thing that comes along with that, and not having someone from Shenzhen do a copycat.
Copybird, yeah. But one thing, what speed does it actually get the aircraft up to? Because obviously, ideally, it'd be above the stall speed. Looking at the videos that we saw on Gary's channel there, it looked like it wasn't going to reach flying speed for your average, reasonably heavily laden UAV. So you're going to have a thrust-to-weight ratio which is sufficient to get it through that period where the wing is not really producing any lift. So does that otherwise compromise your design choices?
So the launch on the videos that you've seen are not actually at full tension. It does get it up to around 10 meters per second, so right on the edge of stall. With that's part of why we need the blown wing on the design, is so that you can expand your flight envelope down to those very low speeds for the payload weight or for the wing loading.
Yeah.
And you're explaining to me that blown wing can't be used in manned purposes. Well, perhaps you unpack it. You explain it better than me.
Yeah. So the blown wing, it's a fantastic idea, but unfortunately, we can't use powered lift systems or blown flaps or blown wings in commercial aircraft because of the risk of, if you lose a motor, you lose a large amount of lift. And that goes against the safety of large commercial aircraft. You largely see it on military aircraft at the moment. Of course, drones, we don't have that issue.
Yeah. Well, it impressed the socks off me, I must say. And so it was great to see that at an exhibition, at a show in Johannesburg, in South Africa. So that was amazing. Absolutely amazed me. Just coming to the comments, people saying VTOLs have the advantage being able to hover. Well, we know Louis in the background's got a big thing that can do some hovering, and Ardu is a suggested name. It's a very good name. VTOL is the way of the future. From a marketing the hobby point, it will open it up for many new pilots. I wonder.
Yeah, perhaps VTOLs, tail-sitters. Between a VTOL and a tail-sitter, I would go for a tail-sitter airplane.
Yeah, I mean, what do you mean between separate lift thrust, or is that when? I mean, this I guess really define what a VTOL is, isn't it? I still don't like. I've taken mine apart. Where's my? Well, I see. I didn't like it. I just didn't. My tail sitter because. Not my little one, but my bigger one that I made, just because I didn't like the feeling of taking so much battery for a ride, and not having you need so much power to get airborne, so much battery there. And do we need pilots, more pilots? And Nicola, we'll come to that in a minute. This has the ability to get into the cruise, and you also, which I thought was a nuts idea, Matthew. So you explained that if you go to, can you? If you can remember our conversation, can you unpack the implications of going to hydraulics for controls of those legs?
Oh, right. So pneumatics, not hydraulics.
Hydraulics, sorry, yes, pneumatics.
But yeah, potentially with a pneumatic system, you have additional control over the legs, so you could potentially have a walking robot, which would be really, really cool. But that's a serious control issue, and for much later on in the design process, it's not a priority right now.
Well, that,
so,
it
will be
an ornithopter.
A chicken.
Ornithopter.
It will be a chicken. Come on.
Yes.
Go the whole hog though. Have an ornithopter with the legs and everything, just like a real bird. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, of course, but then that's exactly what those fantastic people from Festa have got running, haven't they? Is that robot bird? And that is an amazing thing. Amazing.
Boston Dynamics running the robot that gets his feet from the ground.
Well, yes, it was the running part, but it's when it jumped over that log as well. Wasn't it? That was like, whoa!
I was expecting him to trip on the log.
I suspect there's an outtakes video where it has many times. I think so. Yes, it's all getting quite frightening, isn't it? So, we'll stay with us. Hello there, Alpine Robotics. Stay with us, please, Matthew, and we'll review some more. This is probably one of the harder bunches to satisfy as you go along. But I was impressed. It takes a lot more to impress Bruce, but it gets there in the end. Gets there.
Like I said before, it's good to see out-of-the-box ideas coming along, and this is clearly an out-of-the-box idea. Because we've seen so many Me Too companies coming along with Me Too ideas that just copy, replicate someone else's idea, and seeing innovative ideas is good for this market, because it got our attention. It got people thinking, got people speaking about it, people throwing out alternative ideas, discussing the alternatives, the VTOLs, the tail-sitters, the catapults, the pros and cons of having to carry along a large catapult. So it's fantastic for these things to come out.
Yeah, no, it was very impressive. So let's go to, in fact, I'm going to put the link in for, we've got so many people on there. Did we all see, and Bruce, I want you to tell me, how can this work? How can there be a new speed controller that is going to make my day 10 or 15% better?
Because
they say so. You can't doubt this.
Bruce, you forgot the mantra. Bruce, you forgot the mantra. It's the blockchain and the feather label.
I didn't see blockchain in there. Where did they say blockchain?
It's a blockchain controller with virtual reality switching.
And artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence.
Come on, we really need artificial intelligence. We forgot it this time.
It learns how to be more efficient every day.
But it says here the Zubax Myaxa, I don't know actually how you say that, product line should be recognized as the biggest advance in an unmanned vehicle efficiency gain since the mass adoption of lithium batteries. So I mean, it's got to be true, isn't it? What could somebody do? Oh, the conventional BLDC algorithms, patent pending Telegra vector control techniques. Of course it is.
I think it's the use of morphic resonance that does it.
There are a few things that are being discussed on motor control. I believe there's an open source open motor control or something like that has been discussing alternative ways of. Okay, let's go back to the basics. What is a brushless motor? Is just pumping current through some windings at specifically. It's what does that do? It's a three-phase motor. We've had the three-phase motors for, I don't know, 50, 60, 80 more years, because these three-phases motors is something that is used in industry quite often. And there's the star, the triangle star, and all those variations. So getting more efficiency of a motor and driving with the current technology, driving a motor better than we used to do 50 years ago shouldn't be that difficult. Now, the question is, for what price?
That is a very good question. They don't mention it in this press release. But that's a 10% gain in performance would be massive, wouldn't it?
Yeah, really, for 10% gain in performance, and if you get 200% increase in price, that's not a gain.
Okay.
It's interesting how they quantify the gains too. I haven't totally read through the press release, but if it's going to be 10% more efficient than an existing controller, that's not going to add 10% to your overall system efficiency, because already these controllers are very efficient. So you might see a 1 or 2% improvement in the total system performance, but they can legitimately claim it's 10% better than the competition. So, what is the truth? It's hard to tell from press releases.
What is the competition? Is the Simon K systems, the BLHeli systems, the D-Shot systems, the what? So what's the baseline? Is it $2 brushless motor controller from Hobby King, or is it a brushed motor? So the baseline is important to be defined. These bombastic claims of a couple of years ago, we had a commercial for a product to wash clothes that would say, we wash whiter than white. That's the same category of this announcement.
Yes. Well, I did notice some. Yes, the wording should be taken with a pinch of salt, but it does come in a very, very nice red case with Z for Zorro on it.
So my God, red is almost as fast as black and gold.
No, it's not. That's not how it works. I've seen that.
I don't see the word turbo on it though. No turbo. No.
Richard's got the price. It's $126. Well done, Richard. Thank you.
For what capacity? What current capabilities does it have? What voltage?
What current? Richard, you're in charge of finding out. Thanks, Richard. Yeah. So, the next topic I was going to bring on, which we can almost bring back in the jumping drone, is: did we see there's not one but two drone in a box solutions coming out now at this conference? At the end of what I said, I didn't do very well at this conference, but I said, all this rushing to be a drone pilot is a dead-end job, because it's all going to be replaced by automated solutions before we know it. And two of them have come out today. I think, I'm a little bit surprised at how quickly they're coming. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, start reading the regulations to fly autonomous drones all over EU, and you'll get very disappointed. I am. I'm terribly disappointed with the regulations all over EU.
Are you suggesting that within a homogeneous unit?
What, Gary?
Are you suggesting they're not standardized and unified and
what, Gary?
all together? And
No,
are you suggesting that one license doesn't fit all within the EU?
Oh my God, Gary! Of course, you can go. Sorry, for instance, I can go roaming all over Europe with my cell phone, and I don't pay roaming charges. Nice. Okay, but
Yes.
I cannot go and fly a drone that I own in Portugal or my company owns in Portugal, for instance, in Denmark. I have to register the drone in a Danish company, and I have to fulfill all the Dane requirements to fly there. So,
oh, look, and there they are. They're trying to get in touch with you right now to tell you shouldn't have done that. Yes, yes. Well, yeah. But at the end of the day, aren't there going to be a new set of rules for something that's operating within a very confined area, shall we say? It's doing an inspection of an oil rig, or in this case, a construction of the new Gulf port, in a very confined area. Why does it need to have a pilot on? Why does it need to have a man in the loop anyway?
If you go on and I've questioned some of the European flight authorities all over Europe this past week, and they all say no, special permission has to come up and to be certified. And I said, yeah, what kind of certification is it required? No one knew.
But for your business, which is inspecting wind turbines, wouldn't it be perfect if you could just have them based in a box right there, and it could go off and do it itself, all by itself?
Yeah, but for instance, my company, we also always operate with a man in charge, so that he can override the robot, and that's a safety practice that we use.
It's like having a dog and barking yourself as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but the thing is, we can go autonomous from the start to the end, but we don't, because of the crazy regulations that we have, that the human pilot has to be in charge. So the pilot is there, sitting on the radio and watching the grass grow. And when the grass grows,
I don't need to cut that if he's looking up there at that grass.
No. And when the grass grows, he keeps staring at the paint drying. So those are the two actions that our pilots do: watching the grass grow and the paint drying.
Is that in your manuals, in your SOPs?
Yes. At the final report, the pilot has to say how many millimeters the grass has grown during the flight.
Isn't this all lunacy? Because you can take your driver's license works right across the EU, doesn't it? You don't need a separate license in each country. And if you've got a Tesla, you can use the auto drive throughout the EU, and you're on a freeway with other people. You're endangering all these lives, but you can't fly your little drone without all these country-specific endorsements and requirements and things, even though the safety margins are so much higher with a drone than when you're screaming down a German autobahn at 200 kilometers an hour.
Okay, Bruce, start by telling the day that your mayor comes up to reason. I believe the EU bureaucrats will come up to reason. So let's make a race, see who gets to convince them first.
But it's interesting, isn't it, that I guess they're not thinking that it will be a barrier. I guess regulators not thinking, oh, someone from Portugal would want to go to Denmark to do whatever. They'll be thinking, oh, our own fine Danish companies will be able to do exactly what it is. But you're such a niche speciality. Isn't that actually where a load of wind turbine blades are made in Denmark, aren't they?
Yeah, there are a couple of factories there.
And
but not only Denmark. You go, for instance, to, I don't know, France. You go to Spain, even UK. You have to comply with the local regulations. And as a responsible company, we try to comply with all the local regulations. For instance, even today, I had to prepare a stack of paperwork to send to a customer and say, we comply with this, and we have this, and that. So for us, it's always a royal hassle I have a folder with all the regulations ready to ship to anyone that asks for them. But when you try to go around Europe, that's not enough.
Well, the other one in the box is the Percepto, and that apparently has got permission to fly in Italy. Oh no, hey, hasn't. No. Who can take it? It's regularly flown. It's not a fully autonomous drone flight.
Yeah,
so that's got to.
The lady that was here a couple of months ago, right?
Yes, it was, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was. Yes, you're right. Oh, yes.
Come on. Bruce, we need some artificial intelligence for Gary. He's kind of losing it.
Just intelligence. that would do.
It's just a memory failure, that's all.
Yes. Now, Richard has gone off and found the details we required of that speed controller. 30 amp continuous, 50 amp peak, $126 for single CAN bus, but $83 for dual CAN bus. And CAN bus is important because, of course, that is coming. And that would make Matthew's job. We were talking about that as well. That would make your job easier. What would CAN bus do for you, Matthew, if that were rolled out?
Yeah, for us, the CAN bus would be fantastic for adding redundancy to the system easily, where you can run multiple lines where you have true redundancy in the system, as opposed to having to have additional channels put in place and additional physical hardware to build a mechanical redundancy. You can start adding redundancy from an electrical point of view as well, which would be fantastic for us.
I see High Tech have started rolling out CAN bus servos, so it's gonna be happening now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on its way. We're just waiting for it to become widely available in the range of servos that we actually need them in.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you go to some Shenzhen well-known companies that we all love to hate, they've been using CAN for a long time.
Have they?
Yeah.
Well, there we are then. Enough said. I'll say no more than that.
So it's already on the market. The thing is, for the majority of the flight stacks, the controllers, the support has been somewhat lagging because it's a chicken and egg problem. You don't invest on implementing a protocol because you don't have enough devices that could benefit from that protocol. So, and you don't build devices because there is no support. So chicken and egg.
Absolutely. All right. Another thing that I saw is Aurora. Just my own personal pet thing. You chaps know it is the Aurora autonomous aerial cargo utility. They used a Huey and they did some deliveries and it worked. So I said what a nonsense that was, sort of, on LinkedIn, because obviously it can't work because it doesn't have, as we've already described, the rendering, and it's not some fancy new cobbled together electric thing powered by Impossible or whatever Bruce wants to say. And I got quite a bad reaction to that. People saying, of course, electric, modern, swanky things are the future. Whereas I just think, well, why not use up all the Hueys in the boneyard? I don't know. Got any thoughts on that, Bruce?
Well, LinkedIn, that's Facebook for grown-ups, isn't it?
It is. And but the thing is, it's much easier.
I'm not so sure of being the Facebook for grown-ups, given some comments that you see there.
Oh no, it's easier to bait people on LinkedIn. They're all taking it far, far too seriously. Far, far too seriously.
I must have a world record for the number of LinkedIn invites I have deleted. It's not where I want to be.
No, it's a very, very funny place. But it's interesting how many people instantly stood up and said, no, but electric multi-rotors are the way forward. And it's really, if you consider the Huey, you've got air forces around the world have got engineers that have worked on them for probably 50 years. Yes, they've been around 50 years, haven't they? And so the airframe itself probably has 1 million hours or more on it. You know where the spares are. I mean, it just makes absolute sense to me. But there we go.
Any recycle, reuse, repurpose.
Exactly. All those other good things. Yes, all those other good things. And then
I believe those were done before the planned obsolescence principle. So that's why you can reuse, recycle, and the U is so far away.
Was very well built, weren't they? You know, and built in numbers. This is quite an amazing helicopter. So certainly lifting a lot of stuff in every time. So I just thought that was interesting.
Though. You couldn't use those in a built-up area. Too much rotor slap. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you just fly two in, don't you, at 90, and and then you cancel out the noise like the special
you back
forces
it in because there's no noise behind them, so just come in backwards.
Oh yeah, it's always come out with the right answers there, don't you, Brucey? And cool. I'm rushing through the story sort of lines here. Did we see young Oliver Nichols of Sydney, Australia, who won $75,000 from the good folks at Intel? But did you see what his multi-rotor did?
I didn't see. I just saw a picture.
Is there a Linux version if you don't have Windows?
Oh, hey, very good. It cleans Windows. It just it just plants itself on the Windows and cleans Windows, and then that makes a lot of sense. And of course, ridiculously, there'll be all manner of legal ramifications of flying that in town centres, and
it'd be a real pain, eh?
It'd be a real pain. Oh, he's on form. But it comes to Mustang 04's comment about any exemptions for tethered platforms, because of course it's tethered, because it's taken a hose with it. So yes,
a couple of weeks, or was it months ago, I saw also one that was a tethered drone that would spray the wind turbine blades with water to defrost them and also to clean them. And I've had the requests at the company from customers that wanted a drone that would also paint the wind turbines. And I said, there must be something here. I'm missing something. But the problem is a wind turbine is perhaps sometimes 100 meters high, and getting paint from the ground up to 100 meters might be a bit taxing on power requirements.
DJI Agris, it's got a 20-litre tank, 12-litre tank or something, away you go.
Yeah, and then you have to take off, spray the 20 liters, and land every other minute.
Well, the ones I've seen do all take a hose with them. They don't lift the tank. They have a hose, and they have a hose as well as the power.
Do you have a garden hose, Gary?
That sort of a thing. Yeah, exactly.
Do you have a garden hose? How much does it weigh?
Yes, best part of a fair bit, but I would get.
You'd only paint lighter colours.
Yes. Yes. Of course, yes. But how do they? Then that begs the questions: how do they paint the wind? How do they paint the wind turbine blades, and how frequently do they do it now?
Manually. They just have some guys that rappel down the blades with ropes and come down and doing rappel and repairing wherever they are told to. That's the current system. So they just high risers, climbers that just do rappel down the blade, because you have 60-70 meters blades, and that's quite high, and they're standing on top of towers with 100+ meters high. So it's a problem to repair. So naturally, people want drones to do everything, but it's not at the current state of affairs of power requirements. It's not that easy.
But you could sort of think, well, why can't you put something that clamps to either side of the blade and rolls itself down and up? It doesn't have to fly, does it? I mean, the flying's is that a spurious requirement?
I've seen some approaches around that area, but the problem is the blades are not straight, and they can be quite wide in some cases, around 3-4 meters wide. So we don't appreciate the size of those things. I didn't before I went to work with so close to them. Huge.
Yes. Victor is, and hi there, Victor. I was wondering if we could get you in for your latest song. I don't know if anyone's seen in the comments there. Victor Villegas has got a YouTube channel, and he has had a song out this week with a friend. Always drone-related songs. What else was I going to say? I know something we mentioned just before we started. GDPR. Have we all received enough messages about GDPR yet?
I'm loving it.
More.
I'm loving
it. I'm loving it. I absolutely love it, because every dog and cat company is sending emails because they're so afraid of the fines that the GDPR non-compliance will make them pay, that they're all afraid of it. So perhaps the end of spam.
What I want to know is, they're going to charge you so many % of your turnover. Does that mean if I'm making a loss, they'll pay me if I infringe people's?
Oh yeah, very good. Yes, well, one can only hope, eh? Yes, but it does have implications for people gathering data from the air and having the consent of all the people all around, and any inadvertent data sharing that those people didn't want to happen, or people that didn't even know it was happening. So there are implications for mapping companies and things like that.
And even for our friends of Shenzhen with the 3 letters. Oh, I haven't seen. I didn't notice any email from them yet, but I believe they'll be sending up. But when they update their apps quite frequently, I believe in some of them has come up one of those in the 400 pages of their terms of service, one clause about it.
Yes, well, it's an interesting consideration, and in light of the various social media scandals and things that have moved elections and Brexit and all that sort of thing, it's probably not before time that this sort of thing's happening. It's very, very, very interesting, and I wonder, our friends. I'm just reading in that comments of friends from Shenzhen already using Movidius to do AI facial recognitions, biometrics. So there. Well, there we are then. They don't care about GDPR. No, true. But if you are a surveying company providing data for critical infrastructure, then you really do have to care about that sort of thing. And it doesn't really matter if the manufacturer doesn't care about it.
And they do care about GDPR, because the regulations of GDPR is that you can go after the company wherever it is. That's what's scaring them.
Yes. Well, I believe in the States, there's even regulations to stop people moving data across state lines. So even if you're a power company, big power company A, and you've got power plants all over the country, you technically can't even send emails back and forth. I certainly know in some friends of mine that do surveys in Scandinavia of power infrastructure, that the man from the power company, you don't even get to see the SD card. The man from the power company comes and takes the SD card out of the aircraft and runs away with it and does whatever he wants.
So are governments exempted from this, or are they included in this?
Depends on the governments. For instance, the Portuguese government is exempt because it's too expensive to implement GDPR. And so they got a waiver. Because it's too expensive. They have a few more months, years, I don't know, to implement it.
So it's do as we say, not as we do again.
Yeah. What else is new?
Yes, it's interesting, and you've got to think about it. And if you look back through some of these chats we've had over the last couple of years, earlier on we did mention data security a lot, and data silos and all sorts of words involving data. No Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, all that sort of thing at that time, but we've covered this topic quite extensively, and it's something that service providers should be very aware of. That sounds like the end of a service announcement, doesn't it? I know what
my policy is. My policy is people should take a teaspoon of cement and harden up.
God. I wanted to ask you something actually, Bruce. Have you heard any? Is there any more noise down there about your friendly journalist?
No, it's gone deathly silent. Isn't that amazing?
Yes, I've tried to follow up and have a look around, and yes, it has, hasn't it? And even your good light sport aircraft people, whatever they were called, have not got back to me yet. So I still think there's trouble with that story.
He's just waiting for Bruce's mayor to allow drones to fly so he can fly over the Tokoroa.
Yes, absolutely. Now, Bruce, I'm getting bored of these FPV flights. I was really enjoying the hydrogen series. What's happened to the hydrogen?
Wind. It's raining and blowing a gale. Next week we have lighter winds, so I'm all ready to go. I have my store of hydrogen, which I've put in a cardboard box, and I will be taking it out and launching it to get some flights.
Is it up behind you on the ceiling there?
Yeah, it's just up here.
Yes.
I'll just hold a match up, see if it's still there. That's it.
That'll do it.
This is not a safe to anyone show because Bruce stores hydrogen on a cardboard box.
It's the fuel of the future. I mean,
where else are you going to put it?
It's VTOL. It's hovering. It's everything. Balloons. I think the Germans were onto something with the Hindenburg. They just had some fire containment issues.
Don't worry, because we can compress it a lot, so it can be used on a pneumatic system.
Well, the only reason that they were using hydrogen was because the Americans wouldn't let them have helium. Helium was like a war substance, if you will, at the time, and the Americans had the natural supplies of it, and so yeah, if you the ranty horse has just ridden in, hasn't it? I'm getting on it. But if you consider no one else could range across the world like the Zeppelins could, aircraft could hardly reach them. Could hardly get up to the exalted 10 or 15,000 feet or whatever they were at. It was quite a worrying weapon, if you will.
Have you noticed there's been a lot of attempts to reintroduce the dirigible as a method of transportation and freight and all sorts of things, and many companies have come along with that. They've got the new generation of balloon, and it's going to take over the world, and none of them have managed to succeed. But I wonder if in the whole RPAS industry, whether the humble balloon has been greatly overlooked in some applications. It's got an indefinite flight time, and it has quite a good lift capability. Apart from in calm days, you can maneuver it quite well with the addition of little motors and things. For tethered operations, it is perfect. So yeah, I wonder if we will see some changes to because everyone's focused on, because electric multi-rotors are the way of the future, Gary. You might have seen that on LinkedIn. But I think balloons might also have a certain degree of future involved in them. But the only problem is, of course, helium is a finite resource and we're running out of it. Scientists around the world are bitching and moaning because they may not have enough helium for the Large Hadron Collider because everyone's using it for party balloons. So we have to find some other lifted hydrogen. Isn't that the future?
No, well, and we have to get balloons, unmanned balloons.
Yeah, well, look at Google Loon, a project that was launched in New Zealand, and they got it away from us. No,
that's why Gary likes a lot of balloons. Bruce likes a lot of balloons because he's used to see all those Google Loons on sky.
Well, but it works. It's a system that's worked now. There'll be some. If you look at Flight Radar 24 or Flight Aware, you'll see some now. They're working. They're around the world. They're gaining. When Facebook and everyone wants to launch that big flying wing thing, and there's all these other pseudo satellite things, Google are gently plodding along, and it works. And the things are flying for days and days, and they are maneuvering them to where they want to go in the upper atmosphere. I'll guarantee Google has more upper atmosphere data and knowledge now than weather services have generated over many years. And yeah, you're right, Bruce. It's kind of, they've made it is relatively simple, but anything that is, anything that looks impressive often is a bit like your bird legs. Although things look simple, they're not as simple as they look. and they've really perfected it. They've got it down to a fine art, and there are military tethered balloons, the T-COM system or whatever it is on the borders. They've got radar and stuff like that. But as to manned airships or cargo carrying airships, if you've ever had to ground handle one, I've flown an airship, and they're a sod to fly. They're great. They're great when they're working, but getting any wind up and try and handle them on the ground, they're an absolute nightmare. And yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Louis, any chance of
on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we did a while ago looked at airships as a potential, exactly what you're talking about, like the flying wing that Facebook did. Look at using an airship for it, and it really comes down to you've got to be using the right thing for the job. We found that actually holding station. Airships end up using a huge amount of energy to hold station in upper atmosphere because of the winds they've got to contend with. So it really just depends on what you're trying to do. Some missions, balloons are better. Some missions, you'll find some form of rotorcraft. I wouldn't say a multi-rotor, probably a big helicopter. But you find that because of their wind handling tolerance, they actually end up being more efficient than airships, which is bizarre. Because you've got an airship which is getting its lift for free, that's actually using more power to hold station than something that is using power to keep it in the air. But it really just comes down to the altitude you're going to be operating at, the winds you expect to be operating at, and what you're actually trying to achieve to do it. Unfortunately, in aerospace, nothing is as simple as it initially seems, as you mentioned.
Yeah, well, that's where Google Loom wins. It's up in the upper atmosphere and it's going with the wind, and there's just many, many, many of them, and that's how it wins. You probably know the cradle. I can't remember the exact. You live in Joburg, the cradle of humankind. I was flying a hot air airship, which is even worse. This is a pull up a sandbag story, but we came through. There's a big V in a valley, and we came through this V in the valley, and it was calm air in front of us, and it pushed the nose of the airship back over the burners. So I started descending, and I couldn't burn because the whole airship was above me. So the ground just appeared in front of me, and I just had to wait to see what would happen. So the whole they're just a nightmare. They're just a nightmare in a lot of ways. But that's unpressurized. The ones that people are going for are pressurized. Hybrid air vehicle. I mean, look at the problems they had with that. It's a wonderful idea. It's a lovely romantic idea. I want to travel from here back to Europe in an airship with my gin and tonics and a ballroom and all these other, and walk on the top of the thing as I fly across the savannah. But it just
those are called cruise ships.
Well, yes, but the flying cruise ship's got to be a million times better than the floating one, hasn't it? Surely, come on.
For VTOL, I'm thinking, what about having disposable, reusable but one-time use balloons? So you're in a constrained area, you want to take off, you tie a balloon to your UAV, and up it goes. Then you release it, and it flies away. Isn't that a really good low-tech solution to a complex problem?
That's a thumpingly logical idea. So again, that can never work.
Oh my God! No, it will work. That way, I won't have to go to the office every day because the winds are always on the opposite direction. So I could never go to work.
But even in that regard, at the size of balloon you'd need to lift, I don't know, a 2 kilo flying wing, would be a pretty hefty bit of balloon. And
1.5 cubic meters.
Well, that'll take a lot of. Well, you'll find out, young man. You'll find out. I'm looking forward to this. Great.
I'm starting to think that very long sticks are a great alternative to unmanned aerial vehicles.
Yes, very long sticks grow trees. Yes, it was interesting. You mentioned Matthew. That aviation is a trade-off of all different various. All the variables, isn't it, to get where you want to be?
Compromise of compromises.
It is. Yeah. It's very interesting. Now, what time is it? Oh, look, we've got 11 minutes to go. Did anyone else see anything else this week that caught their attention?
Yeah, I didn't see anything, but I've been looking at the UK. They've got these new rules that are supposed to be coming in for drones, and they're supposed to be the second reading of the bill. They're going to publish the proposed bill in the spring of 2018. They're very rapidly running out of time, and I've seen nothing yet.
Well, I think they're having big changes of heart on various subjects. I don't know if you saw that they've opened a BV loss test site, a sort of kind of private one in Wiltshire, and they've also rolling out BV loss for critical infrastructure inspection. So I think they're beginning to run quite hard. So maybe anything they're proposing, they're just shuffling off to one side for now and cracking on. And someone's Mustang F4s. Have you tried it? Have you messed with hybrid balloon and multi-rotors? I don't know if you ever saw I can't remember what it was, where they tethered 4 Wessex to an airship, and the whole thing broke up. Do you remember that one, Bruce? It was a very popular mechanics sort of a thing. But 4, and they were manned as well, each independently manned. So it was a multi-rotor by having 4 real helicopters connected by poles. And then somebody pulled the lever too hard, and it all broke up. It's been tried, but again, any wind, any wind, and you won't the airship part. You won't be going anyway. You won't beat it. we used to get, there's an inflation fan that if it's flat calm, that's enough. If you put it on the side to drive around with turning vents, you just make a hell of a lot of noise and go at about 1 knot, but it's allegedly quite good fun. But you might do that if you land in a place and you just need to hop yourself over a hedge. That's a way of hopping yourself over a hedge, but it's got to be flat calm. Otherwise you just can't move the things. But allegedly, because of course that would be a very naughty thing to do. So I understand that people do that sort of thing. What else? So what else? Did anyone else have anything else?
Yeah, something funny, curious, and also on this prospect of improving. One of the Autopilot partners, a company called CUAV, launched a new flight controller, the PixAC V5, which is very similar to the Cube by Proficiency, and the greatest improvement they did was, amongst others, we are starting to see STM32F7 CPUs on these boards. So we are starting to have more CPU power on the flight controllers. Let's see if Autopilot can generate more code to bring these new CPUs to test. So now, because we are still comfortable, especially with the move to do a new operating system, GBOs, we got ourselves some breathing room on the F4 CPUs, but it's good to see some Autopilot partners coming up with the new boards. I'm anxious to see and test one of these F7 boards from CUAV.
Well, funny enough, that wing in the background, I've got the yellow one now. I've got the Chibios beta on it, on a Cube. So hopefully I'll fly that tomorrow, and I shouldn't see any difference at all, and it shouldn't crash, but it should all be running faster.
No. Tridge is leading the efforts to of the move to Chibios, and it has been a very careful move. That's why we haven't gone. We haven't cut up the umbilical wire with the NUTX roots. And for instance, some boards don't have support for for the NUTX, and Autopilot is clearly trying to find one of them here over my housey table. I cannot find, but some. Oh, I have one here. Some boards are on Autopilot are only running GPUs, like this Mind PX Racer, which is a stackable. I don't know if you can see, is a stackable flight controller, so it has stages.
Is that one of the ones that has? Does that have an OSD on it?
No, this one doesn't have an OSD. This is a regular PixOC made in stages, so you can fly with just this one, or if you want more interfaces, you fly with it with the second stage, And if you want to also have a power distribution board, you fly with the lower stage. So, but the board is just this small one. And this one only runs ArduPilot on GPOs.
So well, I don't really understand. I should have got Philip on. He could have taught me through for dummies. But I know you can make use of the 3 IMUs that much better on the cube with the Chibios.
Yes.
But he needs to
better use of the CPU, because we have less overhead from the NetX/PX4 underlying infrastructure. So we get much better results, and the results so far have been great. I've been flying it for, I don't know, months, even before there were commits to the master branch of ArduPilot. Trich had it on his own repository, so I've been using it for quite some time, and impressively, without any strange issues or bugs. Some of the new features that came up first, because it's easier to develop on GBOs, opened up the range of flight controllers that ArduPilot might run quite extensively, and it's great to see the move to GBOs, but also the move that some manufacturers are doing, like CUAV, to move to more powerful CPUs. It's good to see some movement on this area too.
And I understand that the new GPS handling for multi-rotors is
the blending, the
solution.
Yeah. Before we had an abrupt jump. We could use 2 GPSs, and if one would go rogue, you could go to the other one automatically, but you wouldn't transition smoothly. And now we also have a solution that blends the 2 together, and you get a solution that is the result of those 2 GPSs. So it's better for regular GPSs, not RTK GPSs that require a ground station. Regular GPSs, two GPSs on ArduPilot is more smooth than ever.
And this is only on the Chibios builds, which are currently
I believe on the NetX also this feature.
Okay.
So we have features. We won't invest on newer features for NetX, and if a new feature requires more CPU or better allocation of resources, for instance, the pass-through to program the BLHeli series and ESCs is only on GBOs, because otherwise it's impossible to do it on NetX. So some little things are coming only for GBOs, and until we drop NetX completely.
No, it's interesting times. Interesting times. I will fly it and see if I don't crash. And Bruce, what else have you seen there before we go? Anything else to report for Jazini?
Before Bruce goes, if you crash it, it's your fault. It's the human error, Gary.
So one of my readers, I publish a blog, have been publishing it for nearly 25 years. And one of my readers the other day proposed something that was quite interesting. He said that we probably won't see drone deliveries in the way that we're looking at them now, like where Amazon sends out a drone and DHL sends out a drone. He was suggesting that perhaps we'll all have our own drones. And remember the old days when you would ring up the grocery, he'd come around, boy on a bike, he'd come around with the eggs and the bread and the flour and drop them off at your back doorstep, and away you go. That's what they're looking at with drone delivery now. But he believes that the future could be that we've got our own drones with an industry standard interface and everything. And when you want something from the local shop, you'll send it off to get it. So instead of the shop sending its drone to you, you'll send your drone to pick stuff up, which takes the burden off the supplier. It puts it onto the individual. And so it could be, we might have it all back to front. It may be that certainly in the consumer to business arrangement, the consumer will be sending the drone out, the business will load it up, and it will fly back to the consumer's place, because that gets around the problem of, I'm going to order a pizza and get a free drone, which is what would happen today if someone orders a pizza and you grab the drone. So it's interesting, we may not even be thinking down the right lines when it comes to this whole drone delivery thing. And we're so early on in the development of this whole industry that I suspect that if we were to come back in 10 years' time and look at what we're saying today, we'd realize that we were so far out in so many areas and that things have gone in directions we can't even contemplate today.
Yeah, for Matthew would be great. Selling his jumping planes for people to go and pick up things, and we'll be able to take off again, right, Matthew?
Yeah, of course, we're looking at quite a different sort of delivery. We're not looking at inner city. I personally don't think the inner city delivery drone is really where we should be moving with drone delivery, at least at the moment. But I think the idea of everyone having their own drone is a fantastic way to at least get rid of some of the problems to do with it. I guess privacy, landing in someone's garden, it also takes care of to some extent, which is quite nice. But yeah, I think for the more rural areas where you actually want to get larger amounts on each delivery, definitely our drone fits that category quite nicely.
Mm. And well, I've always thought, and in my silly little thought experiment, a football pitch is always a good a sort of gizzit for every village in Africa's got a football pitch. So if you can get in and out of a football pitch, then you're away. And
you have to explain to our American friends that it's not football, it's soccer.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes. Well, a running around outdoor area, shall we call it then? Yeah.
What about, who remembers the Thunderbirds? You know, Thunderbird 2, and they come in rockets and would just do the landing and a takeoff. What about rockets for vertical takeoff and landing? You know, solid fuel rockets or something, because if it works for Virgil and Scott and whatever, it's got to work for us.
Yeah. Well, there's another launch today. Another set of satellites for the space-based ADS-B system are on their way, and yeah, they've got it running. Well, that is Thunderbirds, isn't it? And that of the landing rocket, and that is the stuff that I guess I don't think I ever thought I'd see it, actually, to be quite honest.
To be fair, though, that was done some time ago. Back in almost the 80s, I think, that NASA had a program where they were encouraging people, or other companies, to develop reusable rocket stages. So it's Elon Musk never does anything new. He just takes old ideas and repackages them and then pitches them. Like the whole Hyperloop thing, that was back in the 1930s. That was first thought of. And you've got electric vehicles, and electric vehicles predated internal combustion vehicles.
They did, yes.
The reusable SpaceX thing, but that was something that NASA had pioneered in the 80s. He's just good at repackaging stuff and selling it. Solar roof panels. We've been doing solar panels on roofs for years. So he's an interesting character, and wonder when he's going to focus his attention on drones. That could be interesting.
He has released some of the Tesla software as open source, because he has been on fire. Tesla has been on fire from some open source
GPL. The GPL is violating GPL, so they had no option but to release it.
Yeah, he had an option. Ignore them, which is what some companies do. Yeah, right. Keep speaking, and I'll do what I do until I get rid of all the GPL stuff that I have here. No, but it's good to see that. And he also said that he wouldn't charge for most/all of his patents that he has for some areas.
But interesting, when he brought out the Hyperloop, he was on TV and he said, I've got this really great idea. I might just patent it and then let people use the patents for free. Well, you can't patent something with that much prior art. So I don't think he quite understands how that works.
Well, come on, Bruce, don't be like that. We've all seen patents being enforced that you go, what?
I'm just from the comments. I'm with Ian Gates and Mustang R4. I also think ground rovers are going to be there for anything flying does. And Victor Reckles says it's a field, not a pitch. It's our ball. It's our game. We'll take it and say what it is. There, thank you, Victor.
Come on, Gary. Pitch is something you give in an elevator when you've got 15 seconds and you're looking for venture capital.
Yes, that's true, isn't it? Yes. Anyway, no.
About that, I saw a good comment the other day that today a pitch was what used to be an encyclopedia salesman when it rings the door. So the encyclopedia salesman would ring the door and he would have 10-15 seconds to sell you an idea. And that's what the pitch is now.
In New Zealand, we have cricket pitches, but we don't have football pitches. We have football fields. So isn't the world funny?
Well, especially your part of it.
Yeah. You guys are on the bottom side of the planet, so
yeah, we're outnumbering you at the minute.
Our balls all fall off the ground and disappear. It's amazing.
I think that's probably the right sort of note onto which to end this chat. Perfect note. So,
and we don't go to the let's hope that Bruce does not call the All Blacks.
Well, but they'll be just like their cricket. No, it's the Australians.
We'll tackle that one next week, shall we?
There you go. There you go. It's all in.
With the South African on the call.
Yes. And then cricket, but we won't talk about Australians and cricket because, of course, Bruce is a secret Australian. So anyway, moving on very swiftly.
Just before we go on, I think we should have a segment next week or in future weeks. Whatever happened to? Because I was thinking today, there's been so many things that we've brought up on this thing, and so many 3D renderings and pictures and things that companies have come out with, and they're going to change the world, and they've gone. What happened to them? Where'd they go?
Come on, Gary. Bruce is trying to maintain this 1 hour show per week. You'll have to do it a 12-hour show daily.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, funny enough, it is funny you should mention that because I have reached out already today to the group that now I've forgotten the name of the Kickstarter drone, the Canadian one that hasn't arrived. Oh, what's it called? Saying did one
so
of
many
them,
of them.
Well, it's that thing that the Plexi drone. That's it. And I've reached out to ask if any one of the group that's rather forthright in its expressions if they want to come and discuss that, because that is a whatever happened was they had a delivery drone 3. Yes, where are they now? They had a delivery date for May, for this beginning of this month. Nothing's happened. I think it's been 3 years now, and that was one of the biggest funders, like Lily Drone, one of the biggest fundraisers, and that seems to be vaporware. So we'll get them on. I'll try and get them on for a whatever. And they're good people from, we spoke about it at the beginning, Louis, I can't remember the name of the country, the company, the thing that impresses us, the multi-rotor with all the cameras. I'm still trying to bang on their door to come on as well.
What about those guys that had the kites that they were going to generate power from, and they would be automatically flown around, and it pulled out a reel of cable and then back again, and all that? That sounded really interesting, but I've heard no more of that.
That's right, they came on, didn't they? Yes. Oh yes. Yes. No, I have seen some more about that recently, but yeah, I'll Skydio. Thanks, Mustang. That's the one, Skydio. I will reach out to them as well, and we'll find out about that. Yes. Where are they now? Oh dear me. Well, test sites in New Zealand. Anyway, moving on swiftly. Has a Kickstarter drone ever worked? It's a really good question. Has one ever worked? Do we know of anyone that's ever worked?
3 letters from Shenzhen. No, he didn't do a Kickstarter.
No, Skydio is legit. No, then
Skydio is legit.
Not having them on for purposes of where are they now? Having them on for purposes of wow, we're impressed. And if you look at last week's show, you'll see
you saw my rant on last week's show, because I'm really impressed with what they did. Only from the reviews and critiques from guys that we respect, like the guys from Flight Test, and the review, not those crazy YouTubers from New York that go and run on the park, but the guys from Flight Test. I tend to give them some credibility to their testing, and they were impressed, and I was impressed, because with the technology they say they use, that's quite impressive.
Oh yes, it was. And Richard had a 4-bot in 2012. That was a Kickstarter. Anyway, we've gone off down a rabbit hole here, haven't we? That's Bruce's fault.
Bruce brings up his bitcoins, blockchains, artificial intelligence, virtual reality. Come on, Bruce.
Yeah. Yes. All right. With that, dear viewer, if you've got any ideas for anyone you'd like to seek us out, or if you can introduce us to somebody that would be crazy enough, as Matthew's very kindly come on and taken an ear bending from us with his very impressive looking product or idea, which I hope to get up to Joburg and see flying, Matthew. I want it all see landing. That's what people want to see. They want to see the landing. And that would be amazing. So Bruce Chain. There we are. Puma Jabba. Bruce Chain. We need the stickers. We do need the stickers now for some Bruce Chain. Brilliant.
Powered by Bruce Chain.
Yes, absolutely. Everything can be solved with a little bit.
I'll render something up straight away, don't worry.
Exactly. You must put that on there.
Let me open up a GitHub repository for Bruce Chain.
Bruce Chain, we must do that. Please do that.
Get on the initial offering now while you can.
let's fill up a corner of the web with some nonsense based around Bruce Chain. Fantastic. Powered nonsense powered by Bruce Chain. Right, we are definitely going. I'm not even drinking. Matthew, thanks very much. Dear viewer, wherever you are in the world, thank you very much. Bruce Chain, thank you. And Louis, thank you. Don't forget to join us at 2100 GMT next week, where we'll also talk nonsense. We'll have another video coming out of DroneCon. Another couple of videos coming out of DroneCon that come out later this week. So have a look for that. And yeah, look forward to seeing you guys next week. Cheers, guys. Thanks very much. Thanks, Matthew.
Cheers.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Yeah.